The Mandalorian, Chapter 21, The Pirate, or as I like to call it, Arg. It was a fun one. A lot of battle sequences. Speaking of sequence, I have Mr. Brian with here. Mr. Brian Solo joining me. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Good to see you. As always, we never talk. This is the only time we chat. We've not talked about this episode. We have nothing planned. That may feel very evident. But it's always nice to talk to you about all things Mandalorian.
This is the way.
That's a phrase, right? That's evidently a phrase.
Evidently.
Is that phrase now more popular than "May the Force be with you"? I doubt it.
No. But I love it. But
right?
no.
It's there.
Warning, major spoilers
ahead.
So you like this episode? I felt it was a bit disjointed in some ways. I feel like this has kind of been happening a little bit. As you know, I'm a devotee. I have talked to you endlessly about how great I feel like Favreau and Filoni have done. But to me, these are, I just had a few notes, a few things I laughed at here and there, like that I shouldn't have laughed at. But it's all leading us somewhere. And I feel like, Bo-Katan is becoming the main focus of the show. That's neither here nor there. It's called The Mandalorian. It may be about Bo-Katan, the Mandalorian at some point. I wanted to ask about Greef Karga because I love Carl Weathers. I mean, you understand how wonderful Carl Weathers is from his body of work, but of course, Apollo Creed. And he has one of my favorite movie lines of all time. I mean, I don't know if you have movie lines that you're a favorite. But anyway, Carl Weathers, I just want you to know, does Greef Karga have a bust of himself inside of his office? Did you see there's like a bust off to the side?
No. But he would, though. He would.
Yeah, he's the best. And listen, those action figures, like his costumes are so ornate. It seems like that's going to be a fun, because I have like a retro Greef Karga action figure, but I want like a cool, like Japanese, 50 points of articulation Greef Karga. And are you wondering what one of my favorite movie lines of all time is? Were you wondering?
I was wondering. Please tell us.
All right, I'll try to do it in Carl Weathers, but it might not be any good. And I think I did this when we did our Rocky thing. Apollo Creed versus the Italian Stallion. Sounds like a damn monster movie. Thank you. Apollo Creed off. I hope I did him justice.
I wish there was a way he could use that line in the Star Wars universe. I don't know if that's possible, but I could.
He's in a monster movie. I mean, there's monsters, so he could be like, this is a. And I just cursed, by the way. I said, damn. I've never cursed on Zoom, Candler.
Yes, we're talking about a Disney show, so we got to be more Disney.
I'm going to Zoom police.
My favorite Greef Karga moment of this episode was when, so he takes the 19 citizens out of the village, and then they're way on the other side of the planet. And then they're watching the battle. And then the battle's over, and then you get a shot of Greef Karga with the blaster, like ready to take them on, and the battle's over. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. Well, I noticed that there was 7 people that take up the Navarro.
I counted 19.
There was 7 to 19. There were a lot of tropes in this. We've talked a little bit about tropes, about things that are overused, overdone. That seems like that's definitely one of them. I'll think of a few more, but if we're talking about Gorian Shard, the swamp monster, swamp thing.
Great name for a character. Love it.
Certainly. And I actually, we talked a little bit about him, about his design. He's very much kind of like Jabba, but there were some old timey serial feelings out of this. I mean, their ship has like a steering wheel, like an actual, a pirate ship.
That was all. I love the ship. The ship was one of my favorite parts of the episode.
But that to me, that's a cool ship. It actually, and I'm not a trekker, but that felt sort of like a bird of prey, maybe like some sort of Trek ship.
A little bit.
You agree with it? I mean, it may not be. I'm not as an aficionado.
A little bit.
So anyway, we have our assault on Navarro, which means Greef needs help. And that's where we get to Carson
And here, Teva, I think, and this is where we get to, I loved what you said at the beginning. Good episode, but disjointed. And I think the disjoint, if that's a word, comes from the two cameos that I love. The character from Rebels, and then the great Tim Meadows from SNL. Love both of them, but I think both of those scenes could have totally been out of the episode, and we could have just had Teva show up at the Mandalorian beach with
I think, Tim Meadows is wonderful. And, this is where I insert, I'd already done a Apollo Creed sort of impersonation. I'm not going to do a ladies man impersonation. I mean, but they made a movie out of Ladies Man based on, but he was a journeyman on SNL and so great and just a rock solid part of that cast and very funny. And he's one of my favorite Office episodes where Michael and Jan go to Chili's and Michael schmoozes him and they do that. I want my baby back. And that to me is great. So Tim Meadows is super. But and by the way, did you ever own Tevas or Tevas? Like
TiVo?
No, it's like the flip flop with the strap. Everybody I knew had them except me. I refused to buy a pair of Teva. And then you realize that it's like Adidas. It's actually pronounced Adidas, evidently, but it's pronounced Teva. Anyway, I don't think it's Carson Teva or Teva, but when I keep hearing it, I keep thinking about the 90s, very 90s centric flip flop with a Velcro strap. Even though that scene was disjointed, I'm going to ask you, you are seeing, though, the groundwork being laid for the New Republic being incompetent, mired in bureaucracy and paperwork and kind of these by the letter things. I mean, doing some things that I think are fairly idiotic. And so that scene between Elia Kane and Carson.
Hold. When you say idiotic, do you mean in universe idiotic or idiotic for the producers to do this?
In universe, I just think that there's some things they're doing as the New Republic that there's a reason why you have the new trilogy, right, with Kylo Ren, and like they destroyed the New Republic at some point, and I think this is laying the groundwork for their incompetence. And again, if you were talking about a trope, let's talk about the Rhodian. It's Greedo, right? Everybody knows Greedo, but the Rhodian secretary coming in saying, "You can't go in there. He's busy." Like that's anytime a secretary tries to stop a person from, like in Tootsie, Michael, he's in there. You can't go in there to see George. Like anything where a secretary is trying to hold off, like, and all the president's men, Flo from Alice is trying to keep Dustin Hoffman from seeing Ned Beatty, rest in peace. I'm always rest in peacing everybody. Ned Beatty, rest in peace.
Because a lot of the greats are gone, unfortunately.
Gone. So you have that silly trope, and then you have a good Elia Kane, and they have a good back and forth about this very thing of you're going to wait too long and it's going to be too late. Basically, I'm paraphrasing.
Let me interrupt you. I was really annoyed she was in, and this is nothing against the actor. I was annoyed that character was there because it sometimes Star Wars, the galaxy is huge and sometimes it's very small. In this episode, it felt a little small that she just happened to be there at the one office in Coruscant.
Sure. You want anything from Chick-fil-A? I'm going to Chick-fil-A. Something from Chick-fil-A? Oh, do you want to? Oh, I was. Yes. Now it is. Yeah, that is again.
You're right. She did do that. She walked in saying, "Hey, well, I was getting you." So was that?
I'm going down to get a Starbucks. So I mean, this is leading us up to obviously Moff Gideon, obviously, right? But you were talking about seeing Zeb in the episode from the very popular cartoon Rebels, and I have
which was cool. Yeah, he's great. I think he's a great character. I'd like to see more of him. But
well, I love Zeb and I love Chopper, and that Rebels is a good show, really good show.
Yeah. By the way, was that Hangar Bay or whatever? Is that the same planet as Rogue One?
You're asking the wrong person, but I need to do some research really quick. Hang on. No, I have no idea, but that's a good question. Maybe. I hope so. Possibly.
Look like it.
Does it ever bother you that you have, and this has been happening since '99, you have CGI characters, and then you actually have masked characters. Like it's always a little bizarre because Zeb looks great, of course, he's CGI, and then of course you have like, all the pirates are all in their masks, so it's like masks, and that's just a little not really funny, just a something to think about. But I want Zeb in the show. Period.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, they're bringing everybody in. Go ahead. What else do you have? I have a few things, but
there was one line, and I wish I wrote it down, but Bo-Katan, when the scene where she's, all right, this is how we're going to do it. There was an awful line that she said that I need you to work as a single military unit.
I'll use this to drop you in, and you will operate as a tight military unit.
Let me go back to Zeb very quickly. I think I'm correct about this, but there's a really interesting Ralph McQuarrie concept art of the characters that might be in the Star Wars, and Chewbacca character looks a lot like what Zeb turned into. If you ever want to like do Ralph McQuarrie original art, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Because even we talked about like 3PO looks like the robot from Metropolis. But anyway,
and Grief Karga's droids look like C-3PO's original concept. Did you notice that?
Yeah, completely. So there's a lot of homage. I mean, we can talk a lot about there's homage. I felt, a few lines, like you said, kind of take me out of it a little bit, like don't, let my hospitality, it's kind of like it turns into like Grief Karga said something like, oh, weird. I don't like let's talk about this. So Carson, spoiler alert, we know that. Just, I hope you watch the episode, watch it. When Carson goes to the cave, by the way, wouldn't it be awful living in a cave? Like, could you imagine? Like, I need to see all their living quarters, like what they're doing in there, because it just seems horrible. Like you're in a hot metal outfit in a cave always, right? So that's not fun. You come out and it's like, we pride ourselves on our secrecy, like, well, you've just been embarrassed by R5D4.
Yes.
And so they obviously say Navarro's in trouble, Grief Karga, all the watchwords you need. And then you have the I'm going to hold the armorer's,
the speaking stick or whatever.
The old speaking stick. Now, I don't know how you thought about it, but like Paz getting up and kind of pulling a switcheroony. I mean, he's like a very flair for the theatrical there, because it seemed like he was talking as if they weren't going to do it, and then he kind of does the old like, I do want to do it, and everybody's like, yay.
Yeah, I saw it coming, but yeah,
of course, that's another thing. Like sometimes, and I think too, like Grogu brought in a lot of non-fans because he's so adorable, I guess. But I think maybe a consensus might be that we wish Grogu was doing more. They as we've talked about, they've gotten away from the Mando needs to save Grogu like that's the cycle. So that's not the case. Grogu is not doing anything. The nice scene with Bo-Katan and the armor, which like the armor kind of has had an epiphany. I mean, this big, huge, massive change of heart, which I wish I would have seen that or understood exactly why. But Bo-Katan walking both worlds is pretty huge.
Yeah, so, I'm trying to equate it to sort of a religion where the head, the priest or whatever, just suddenly flips. Take your helmet off. Don't worry about it. And that was in the walking both worlds, as you say. I really like Bo-Katan, and I like the actor who plays her, but I hope you're wrong about Mandalorian as she's becoming the focus.
Katie Sackhoff. Well,
Katie Sackhoff, thank you.
She is, well, I don't know if that's the case, but you may see that development, because again, another Star Wars, Clone Wars character that gained a lot of popularity and had some great episodes before it was live action. Obviously, she was the voice, so I think it's cool that. But I mean, again, it's time to retake Mandalore. I mean, this is what they're leading to, which is bringing every Mandalorian together, whether or not you follow any number of things, and realize you can live together without feeling like you have to go by this particular creed. So again, that we see where it's going, and then you have the mystery, which we can talk about it, but go ahead.
Well, one thing I just think if I wore a helmet for an hour and I took it off, I think I would be there. It's bright. Like there's no sense of it. Just hey, I'm taking it off. It's fine. But yeah, the ending was cool. So is it a evil sect of Mandalorians, or are they being framed, or
one of the two?
One of the two. One of the two.
Right, definitely. It could be that like it's a frame up, most definitely. So if Moff Gideon has because he has a bone to pick with Din, then certainly whatever happened, there is now an opportunity for him to take revenge. So that could be part of it. But we'll have to see. But it did have that cliffhanger ending, and that the scan was, it was identical to the scan in Aliens '86, right? Like
oh yeah,
it was exactly. We just call that homage at this point. But I do like that the R2 unit had like it came off.
That was cool. I love that.
They're using everything R2 had and turning it into all these little interesting, neat little gimmicks for what they can do with them, which is fun. But I guess I'm having a hard time pinpointing and then trying to give good examples as to why I felt the way I felt about. Because I say this every time, I'm invested. The show's not perfect, but it is. And I think honestly, I said it last week, but there's a lot of issues about, and again, Disney in general, Disney and Marvel, Disney and Star Wars. There's lots of turmoil going on behind the scenes. And so for us to have this, like for Star Wars fans, are they dumbing it down for us? Am I too blind to see that there's really some issues with the actual show, or I'm invested? I don't know. I'm just throwing out rhetorical questions I can answer myself later.
Well, as you probably know, the audience has definitely gone down this season. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they had this amazing cliffhanger, and then they answered it all in during Boba Fett. I'm Candler Budd and Brian Solo, and this has been Grab the Remote Mandasodes.